Your president is watching. America is watching. But more important, Godfather is watching. Make no mistake, there will be no fuck-ups. Marines around this world would give their left nuts to be where you are. Anybody not want to go? Marines, kill on 3. 1, 2, 3. Kill! Rangers, please make sure your bands are ready, formed up for tent 6 outside the Stuart Arms. Mass bands, fall out!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for tuning in to Cold War Radio live from studio number 1, which means we're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, at least for the rest of the next 12 hours. I'm your host, Hutch Bailey Jr., deep down in my broadcast bunker. Please become a SteelCityResistance.com, become a Cold War Radio patron on our website, SteelCityResistance.com. I skipped a line. The Cold War Radio patron hotline, 412-206-6208. The voicemail, 412-567-1460 at SteelCityResistance.com. You can also catch the research room that has a ton of information, the video page, which gives you the extra nuance of the audio clips we play on the radio, on the video clips that we got them from. If you'd like to write to the program, please write to Cold War Radio, P.O. Box 10433, 370 Castle Shannon Boulevard, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15234. Without further ado, let's get the other half of Friday's dynamic duo on the mic. Let's go to the northern neck of Virginia and welcome Jack to the program. Hello, Jack.
Hey, Hutch, man. That little blurb there, I could just see you sliding into the studio with your cane, hopping and popping. Oh, yeah, it's good to be here. Another Friday. Lots of things happening. Plenty to talk about tonight.
Just my little subliminal behind the scenes power of suggestion there. I see you picked up on it. I want to say thank you and congratulations to the United Kingdom, finally going to be short of England, and I don't want to offend anybody's intelligence. That was Scotland the Brave by the masked bands on the march after the 2019 Dufftown Highland Games in Moray, but it was the only thing I had that was even close to a British patriotic song. I figured, hey, it's a bunch of Americans. They're gonna get it. You know what I mean?
It's either that or play the Beatles, right? We can't do that.
Exactly. And the Scottish, really on the mainland of Europe, are the baddest son of a bitches that live there. So that's fitting. So after 3+ years of negotiation, and I think I heard on television tonight, Jack, I didn't realize that the European Union has been around for like 40 years. I didn't know that. I thought that was something a little more recent than that, but apparently, what a disaster. I'm really happy for them.
Yeah, I mean, the more you dive in to look into that, it was sort of something that what they were trying to do with the United States by having us get into these global trade agreements, the TPP and the Paris climate thing, and all of a sudden you find out, hey, we're not a sovereign country anymore. We've done ceded power to Brussels.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly right. And
that's what happened.
Brussels might as well be a Muslim country. You know, let's face it. I mean, it is what it is. You know, and I got a set of batteries, some cadmium, lithium batteries, some German batteries, and I'm looking at the box, you know, and it's all right. We're showing address in Berlin, and then of course they're made in Zhongzhou province in China. You know,
you don't say.
It's unbelievable. It really is. So Brexit Day has finally arrived, and I don't know if it's coincidentally or what, Jack, but in our Spreaker page gets followers. We have over 1,000, over 1,500, I think, 1,200, something like that. 1,776. How about that?
That's
I'm looking
nice.
at it right now.
Just let's stop it right there.
Yeah, right. But in the last week or two, I'll just tell you the last one we got. Freddie Mills from Slough, S-L-O-G-H, from Slough, United Kingdom. And the last 30 followers I had have been from the United Kingdom. And some of these things, these stats and these platforms, I mean, they get invaded by bots sometimes, so maybe that's the case. But if you're listening to the program in Slough or anywhere else in the United Kingdom, and you can call, I'm not sure how that works, but it's 412-206-6208 or the voicemail 412-567-1460. And I know there's some knuckleheads out there that are going to try to throw a British accent and call, but whatever. I'd like to hear from you if you're really from there. It'd be nice.
Yeah, there's there's folks there. I mean, it's sort of divided within that country's almost mirrored exactly the same way here. You've got the massive support for Trump, but you still have the embedded folks that think he's ruining this country. And the same thing with the Brexit. I mean, they voted for Brexit before we voted President Trump in as our president.
Right.
And it took from that day till now for them to finally leave.
And this is what brought Steve Bannon to the forefront of the political world, is he was the one that was, he had correspondence in London, you know what I mean, all during that. Nobody else did. The United States was paying attention a little bit, but he had Raheem Kassim, one of his right-hand man, really, now. And, Nigel Farage was on the show all the time, so that's a good deal. It's a really good deal. So we wish them well, and don't think that that's not related to MAGA, because it certainly is. They're parallel, and it's happening in other countries. It's happening in Hong Kong. It's a really big deal.
If you remember, after Bannon left the White House, helping out there, he spent a lot of his time over in Europe helping the nations that wanted to regain their sovereignty with all the efforts over there, all across Europe. He's been working hard.
Absolutely.
It's a good thing.
Now, just something, one of the things that I do, I like to share with the audience every now and then, is I follow the communications a lot, police radios and things like that, other things besides that. But that's one thing that I do a lot. And now that my son is a professional firefighter for several years now already, and some of the stories he tells me, I was thinking about something. I heard a police call today, earlier in the day, and my immediate reaction to it made me reflect on how, when you really pay attention to things that are going on, how calloused that we can get. So I'm listening to this police call, and it's it's an overdose. And the call was related to a mother whose son had just been rushed to the hospital with an overdose. And how the mother called police and wanted her to come back to the house because she found all these heroin stamp bags. That's what they call them, stamp bags. That's the way they're sold, I guess, in little packets, and they're called stamp bags. And they put their little stamp on them. This is Red Scorpion or whatever they call it. And she wanted the police to come get these. And I'm thinking, oh, shit, Mom, that kid's going to be pissed. Because the way this works, and it's kind of dark gallows humor, but I'm all immersed in it, so I know all about it. Now, what happens is they've found this miracle antidote called Narcan, all right, and they've outfitted all the fire departments, all the police department, everybody has Narcan. So when they roll up on an OD, they administer Narcan. And my son tells me half the time, these guys get pissed off that you did it because it blows their high. Think about that. You bring them back from the dead and they're pissed off. But it's a true thing. It's a real situation out there. That's the first thing that came to my mind. That kid's going to be mad.
His mom, what are you doing?
Right. It's unbelievable. It's sad. It really is.
It is. It's sad.
So that's just my little off the wall comment. Let me cover CPAC real quick. I just found out that Kurt Schlichter will be going to CPAC, so that'll be good. It'd be nice to go talk to him.
Good evening, Hutch. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Yeah.
And
you can't be hitting those buttons, Hutch. Come on now. So we didn't make any movement lately. There's $1,935 in the account. We're looking for $7,000. Now, well, actually, there's 20 more in there, but I didn't put it in yet because when people donate, PayPal has to wet their beak. So it's really $18, and the donation was $20, the last one. but there's only 18 in there. So I was waiting for some more funds to come in there, and then I'll round it up when the patronage comes in or whatever. But we're still looking for quite a bit, 5,065, right around there. And then if we don't, I'll make a decision probably the second week of February on whether or not we're going to go full bore or we have to peel back a little bit. And maybe, I hope we don't have to do that, but we might have to send less people. But we'll figure something out. But that's where we are right now. So if you can help, go to steelcityresistance.com, hit the donate button. Try to keep it under $10,000. That makes our accounting a little easier, ladies and gentlemen, but we'll see what happens. Now, let's get in to the impeachment situation. And I'm going to do this a little bit different. I'm going to, normally we go through all of the dialogue at the beginning of the show, and then we have a couple meat and potatoes stories at the end. But a lot of times they get ripped off, especially on Fridays, because we get, talkative, get a lot of callers in and things like that. So I want to talk about a couple things, and then I'm going to go into the educational segment of the program, because I learned something myself, and when I do that, I like to pass it on. But first, I got to tell you, Jack, and I don't know how much you watched of these hearings. I watched entirely too much of them. I am completely sick of them. I can't believe Turkey Neck didn't end that tonight. He should have ended that tonight. This should have been over at 6 o'clock. This should have been over.
Or at least over tomorrow, the way they've come about it, and they're supposedly scheduling the acquittal vote Wednesday after the State of the Union address is just beyond.
And they're going to give every senator 10 minutes to talk, man. There's 100 freaking senators. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, man.
Got time for this?
No, we don't have any kind of time for this. You're absolutely right. But one of the things that I noticed when I'm watching this thing is the Democrats have a tendency to elect illiterate people. There's one lady, I never saw her before in my life. Her name is Val Demings, a Democrat out of Florida. And she's making her dissertation today. And I couldn't get over the way she talked. She continuously referred to documents as documents. Documents. This is a United States representative from Florida talking about the documents.
Impeaching the president, mind you.
Yeah. And then this other guy, this Jamil, whatever his name is, says a fundamental question that must be addressed. Not must be addressed. It must be addressed. And I'm thinking, my God, where are we? Where are we right now? I mean, we've got idiots out there in Congress, idiots. Jerry Nadler, Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff isn't an idiot, but he's certainly a creepy guy, isn't he? I mean, can you imagine looking up to him?
The Buck stops here, right? Didn't he one of his buddies with Buck?
Yeah.
Who knows what's going on?
Ed Buck, that's exactly right, dressing up like a Roman gladiator. You wonder who he's trying to conquer. So anyway, we've got some things going on, a lot to talk about. But I want to talk about this because I read an article, and this was the main story for tonight, because I was really mad. It said, Chief Justice John Roberts strikes out. This is by Ed Timberlake at American Thinker. And I'm not going to read the entire article, but I just want you to get the gist of this author, and then I'll tell you what I did next. Roberts doesn't seem to have the judicial acumen of a traffic court judge. During the course of the impeachment trial in the U.S. Senate, Americans have now seen the Chief Justice have 3 historical strikes. The Senate should immediately vote to have a case dismissed against President Trump. Our fairly elected president should be immediately acquitted of these most politically driven, bogus charges in American constitutional history. Absolutely true. Strike 1 by John Roberts is simple. Based on the conduct of his presiding over the trial, it is obvious that he has been an over-the-top prejudice against President Trump by not holding House Democrat managers accountable for their gross breach of decorum. Early in the proceedings, he invoked a precedent from 1905 using the word pettifoggery to establish decorum during the impeachment trial. And basically what he did was Nadler got up there and acted ridiculous, and Roberts came out and scolded both sides, kind of like a drill sergeant would do. And you can go to the American Thinker and you can read the entire text of this. But strike two for Chief Justice Roberts is that he has shown so far that there's no judicial admonishment or accountability for committing perjury. We have a saying in the Marines about lying. The Democrat House managers put their back against the wall and lied like a rug. Why have a witness if the person is allowed to lie without penalty? And I agree with that 100%, Jack. I'm sitting there swearing at the TV. How can this guy sit out there and, Jerry Nadler, in front of whoever's watching this and the entire Senate, called the President of the United States a dictator. And nobody raised an eyebrow. If the Chief Justice had instructed the House managers to stop committing perjury, then perhaps their posturing in calling witnesses to get at the truth may have been more credible. If there's no penalty for perjury, then why have any witnesses? Strike three, and you are called out, Mr. Chief Justice. Senator Rand Paul asked a question that was not allowed that goes to the heart of my traffic court analogy in President Trump facing his accusers. Senator Paul asks, my question today is about whether or not individuals who were holdovers from the Obama National Security Council and Democrat partisans conspired with Schiff staffers to plot impeaching the president before there were formal House impeachment proceedings. As I previously pointed out, if the person reporting the transgression is not present, then the judge will issue a verdict of not guilty. The judge, in so doing, is actually reaching back to the confrontation clause of the Sixth Amendment facing one's accusers, which, with the genius of the Founding Fathers, is actually built out from English common law and even Roman law. The Sixth Amendment is one of the foundational stones upon which our entire edifice of a fair system of justice is built. If the past is prologue for this entire sham process, and a witness can lie with impunity, and the president's accusers can use disorderly language to attack him with no consequences, and President Trump cannot face his accusers, then shame on everyone involved, and this has gone on much too long and too far. End it. I agree with that, too. So I read that, Jack, and I'm feeling the same way. I'm really fed up with Justice Roberts and the way this thing's going, and sitting there and having to listen to Nadler and, whoever else got on the mic
Schiff,
on the Democrat side.
Jeffries, the whole entire, the House managers, as they call them.
How many times did you hear them say, well, if the president thinks that he could just do anything, that was just so distorted. And it wasn't even about anything. It was about Comey, I think.
How can you come in there and claim that you've proved the case with beyond the shadow of a doubt, yet you're crying and begging that the Senate, if you don't allow us to have witnesses in this trial, then you are part of the cover-up.
Yeah. Basically
accusing the jurors of being part of a cover-up. You don't come into court and attack the Senate like that. And what happened with the judge? I think he had, like you said, he admonished them and basically admonished both sides because the president's attorneys, when nothing was happening, when the House guys were attacking the president, calling them anything under the sun, one time Cipollone got in there and really went after Nadler, and that's when Judge Roberts says, both sides, you need to stop this. This is the Senate.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's something else. So, I'm sitting there and I'm a little disgusted. And I don't know enough about this. I need to find out. So I wanted to find out what the Chief Justice's role is in an impeachment. So I ended up at the Supreme Court of the United States blog. And a guy named Frank Bowman pretty much described it. And I think one of the reasons that were flummoxed a lot of people, including the author of the previous article, is that we've been led to believe that this is a court case. a court trial, and it's not.
Right.
This is a political operation, a political process, and it happens more than just for the President of the United States. This happens for any judge, any other officer that is impeached at the federal level. And let me just tell you what the Constitution said. It specifies only 4 points about the Senate impeachment trial of a president. 1, the Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. To try all impeachments. Not to investigate. It's a deliberative body, not an investigative body. 2, when sitting as a court of impeachment, senators shall be on oath or affirmation. 3, conviction of any accused officer requires concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. And 4, when the president is the accused, the Chief Justice shall preside. So the idea that this is a trial is incorrect. And that was what I wanted to bring to the audience. It's in other words, who do you think presides over all of the other impeachments of which you never hear? The Vice President of the United States. Why? Because he is the President pro temp, which just means temporary, the President pro temp of the Senate. The Vice President is the most powerful senator in the U.S. Senate, but he's an additional member, number 101, made to break ties. And when he's in the position, he's in a temporary position. And of course, the only reason that the Vice President is not presiding over this is because, think about it, the man that would take the job is presiding over the guy's trial.
Yeah, that's a little, yeah. He might be your best friend. It's like, wait a minute, he can just snatch my Oval Office desk because he's in charge. That's why they had the
And that's the only reason why the Supreme Court Chief Justice is there, is to fill in for the Vice President because of a conflict of interest. It's not because the Supreme Court is ruling. It's not that. He's not acting as a judge at a trial. He's acting as a President pro temp of the Senate over a Senate procedure that is similar to a trial. But when I read that, and it goes on to say that it's crucial to note why the Chief Justice appears only in presidential impeachment proceedings. The simple answer has to do with the often forgotten constitutional power of the Vice President to serve as president, meaning presiding officer of the Senate. In any impeachment case other than that of the president, the Vice President can preside, as Thomas Jefferson did in the very first impeachment, that of Senator William Blount in 1799, as Aaron Burr later did in the 1805 trial of Justice Samuel Chase. However, the framers recognized it would be unseemly at best for the person who would assume the presidency in the event of conviction by the Senate to preside over the president's trial. To prevent that obvious conflict of interest, they specified the Chief Justice as a stand-in presiding officer in presidential impeachment trials. A good many discussions of the upcoming Senate proceedings have been understandably but incorrectly inferred two things from the presence of a judge in the presiding officer's seat. First, that having a judge preside implies that the process will be akin to a conventional judicial trial, and second, that the Chief Justice's role will be akin to that of a judge in such a trial. Neither inference is supported by the constitutional text. So basically what it's saying, not that you don't understand, but I have more, I read this whole thing before and I can't read it all now, is that he's not a judge. He's acting as the Vice President would in an impeachment trial for other officers. But I just thought that was something that was not being reported very well. I didn't know it, and I learned it, and now I can understand. Other than the fact that he didn't let Rand Paul ask that question, that was crazy. But I can understand that he's not injecting himself in every back and forth.
and what that is he's put in there as like not a judge, perhaps a referee or somebody that's, making sure that the proceedings carry on in a civil and proper way. And that's how you think about it, that's how much that the founding fathers deliberated and thought about this process, that they went all the way to the lengths of knowing that should the president be the one that's being called to the table and being put on impeachment by the House and having the trial in the Senate, that it might not be a good idea that the vice president be the one there should anything come up for a ruling. And that's why they had pulled in the Supreme Court justice there. So
you couldn't have him for Congress either.
Which makes you think, when you see all of these shysters right now getting on TV trying to change what Schiff and all of his people did, saying, oh, the Senate, you must do this, you must bring in and call witnesses that we didn't call. They're trying to change how this whole setup was done in the beginning. The House, they're sole responsible for gathering the evidence and bringing the charges. The Senate's responsibility is to try the case, to sit there and hear, deliberate, and come up with a decision. They're not the ones investigating, right?
One's investigative and the other is deliberative. Let's go to Ken from King George. Thanks for holding on, Ken.
Hey, no problem.
Hi, Ken.
Yeah, I was listening to Rush the other day, and he was talking about it seems like in this country we have like a dual constitution, how we interpret the Constitution and how other people determine the Constitution or interpret the Constitution, where it's nuts to me that they don't teach civics class anymore, in schools. And it's even worse when you get to college, because they will bastardize every amendment out there and brainwash these kids into thinking, well, it's a living, breathing document. No,
written by old
not.
White slave owners.
Yeah, we
got to throw that in there.
Oh yeah, but the craziness is, when you hear Nancy come out and she wraps herself around the American flag and the Constitution. Well, the Constitution says we need to do that. No, it does not. Shut your pie hole. You're an idiot. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Maybe you should listen to Mark Levin or something. Just
Cold War radio,
where he goes into the history of all this stuff.
When he sees Nancy put the flag around her, she's allergic to that, so she's like gets the hives of patriotism, and you won't see her for a couple of weeks while she gets treated because she's lying. I mean, she's
drinking too much of that anisette.
She is no friend of the Constitution. Let me tell you that.
Her or her mafia family.
No, well, neither are the Clintons. Well, anybody with a D next to their name, pretty much. But it's crazy now. This year in Virginia. So I've been an election official since 2016, and normally when they do a primary, they do what they call a dual primary. So you can vote in either the Republican or the Democrat primary, and it's held on the same day. So, but you have to pick. You can't vote in both primaries. You have to pick one or the other. Well, this year, for some crazy reason, they've, basically, they're doing one in March, and then, I'd have to go through the email again, but I know I got to go to training for two of them. But so I imagine one of them's for the Democrat presidential primary, and then the second one will be for the Republican Senate primary. and then we have a third vote in November where whoever wins and
the general.
That it seemed kind of strange to me. I know Jack's been following Virginia politics a lot longer than I have, because but have they ever done this before? Is it because it's a presidential year? I mean, I'm going to ask these questions when I go to the first training.
I think you're talking about. I mean, it used to be they'd have the primaries, Dem or Republican. It'd still be the same day, and you had your choice, right? You could either vote one side of the ballot or this side of the ballot, or one, or you didn't have to be stuck to one party all the way down the ballot, as some other states are. Either you're a Democrat or Republican, and that's who you vote for. You don't have the ability to choose maybe a couple of these on this side you agree with. You're gonna vote for them, and then maybe you're gonna pick somebody else on another party for some other place. Virginia, you can do that, at least until now. What you're saying is they've split the days for which party. So if you go out and it's a Republican day.
That's what it sounds like. Because normally and that's all controlled by the whoever's in the governor's house. They get to pick they get kind of a majority as far as the voting.
Hopefully it all turns back. Hopefully it all turns back red, man. You got to get a red majority.
Yeah, because right now it's all Democrat. And one other thing, which is pretty shady for Virginia, you have them introducing legislation where it's a 1-2. You get to pick your choice, and if your choice doesn't win, you get a second choice, and they're going to start adding votes that way. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's starting to sound a lot like California to me.
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to turn Virginia into California, and they're doing a good job at it. And
they're not wasting any time.
These elections coming up in Virginia are crucial, man. You guys are going to, because these guys are evil, man, and they're not stupid. And they will put things in there. They'll put sleeping amendments in there that don't show up for 7 years and just blow the house up.
Right. Last week we had the Second Amendment. Boom, 20,000 plus. Did a wonderful job. No incidents. All that. What happened this week? 5 anti-Second Amendment bills passed in this state.
Right. And today, a bunch of Bernie supporters, and this is serious. If you haven't listened or watched the Project Veritas films on these college people that are for Bernie Sanders, they're freaking militant Marxists. They're militant. Yes. They've already declared in New York City, Antifa is about ready to go crazy on the subway system. And Mar-a-Lago, 2 Bernie Sanders women are in a shootout with the cops. I mean, this is getting serious. And
that's what it was, Bernie Sanders supporters?
Yes. And this thing is with this freaking AG Barr, I'm running out of patience with this guy. These are things that only the federal government, DOJ, can deal with. Nobody in Virginia can deal with it. Nobody in D.C. This has to come from the Attorney General. And AG Barr, I'm telling you, you better get on the game, because it's coming.
And you hear today, they're all over the news. Bernie Sanders nationwide has taken the lead.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Over the Democrat Party.
And he's never going to win, and then we're going to have to deal with these fascists.
And what else surfaces today? The DNC changes the rules, the requirements for getting into the debates.
To get little Mike in, and that's after they get rid
Bloomberg
of the
in there, and
they got rid of Fidel Castro, and they got rid of Booker. And now they're going to let the rich white guy from New York City in. Ken, thanks for calling, brother. I appreciate it.
Eliminated the money requirement and doubled the voting, the percentage poll. You have to have 10% to get on the debate stage. And what you just said about Bernie Sanders people, they don't like this. He doesn't like this.
No, they're going to start shooting.
Pocahontas doesn't like it. How can you sit there and change it?
If you're a college kid, or any college kids that are supporting Bernie Sanders, you better tell them. You better talk to them.
Remember 2016?
Because as soon as they start shooting people, and people are going to start shooting back. You better be careful. Let's go to Florida and welcome Valerie to the program. Hello, Valerie. I hope I didn't upset
Valerie.
you too much.
Hi, Hutch and Jack. No, it's fine. I just had my daughter here visiting from New York. We were just downstairs, and as they put the whole Democrat lineup on, I said to her, "So tell me, sweetheart, which one of these slime balls you going to vote for?" And I swear, Double O was sitting right there. My grandson was there. I just asked the question. She said, "Well, no, I would never vote for Bernie." And Biden is she says, "But I would consider voting for Bloomberg."
Oh my God.
And you see, after she left, I looked at my husband and I said, "Actually, that's the good news. Because if we can divide up these crazy liberals, we still win."
But at the end of the day, we still have them living next door.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other. I know. My daughter doesn't live next door. She's a liberal New Yorker, and she doesn't quite know where to go now. Like many of these 30-year-old issues are they don't know what to do, and I think that's good.
You know why?
Yeah.
Because of us. We did it. We made it too damn easy for them. You ask any kid out there that's 25 to 30 years old how to change the oil in his car, they'll look at you like you're stupid. I'm serious.
We know that.
Or how to change a tire.
Just to ask them, which one of these people would you vote for? You're such a great liberal Democrat. Tell me which one. Convince me.
Right.
I'm sitting right here looking at you. You tell me which one. And they can't do it.
Let me tell you a little story about Michael Bloomberg real quick. Maybe you could convey this to her or whatever. But Jack and I have Michael Bloomberg in common because Michael Bloomberg's money is what funded Northam's run for anti-gun legislation. He got these people elected. His money. In Pittsburgh, the communist mayor of Pittsburgh declared that he was going to ban all AR-15s and everything else, and you were not going to be allowed to have totally against not only the United States Constitution but Pennsylvania's Constitution.
And he hates guns.
He does, and he got sued. The city of Pittsburgh got sued. And guess who paid the city's tab? Michael Bloomberg. Literally.
What a shock.
Literally. I mean,
he thinks he's going to buy this whole...
He does.
He thinks he can buy the world. He and George Soros, they can buy the world.
And you can't watch a YouTube video without seeing him either. I mean, he's everywhere.
Well, anyway, I just wanted to share that with you because she was just here. She just left to go back to her hotel. But I'll get to her tomorrow morning again.
Tell her to bring her.
Don't let her settle on Bloomberg, because you see a lot of stories where Bernie bots last time when they were shut down by the Clinton machine and stole that nomination. A lot of the supporters for Sanders actually voted for Trump.
They did,
and a lot of those same ones are saying the same thing.
Right.
If they do this to Bernie again, we're going to vote for Trump.
I said exactly that to her tonight, and she said to me, "Well, what about the two women that are running?" Like she doesn't even know. They don't pay attention. These younger kids today, they don't pay. Maybe we didn't either at that age. I don't know, but we didn't have as much.
What, two women? There's more than two women running for the Democrat side, isn't there?
2 or 3. Well,
there's two left. There's 2 left.
Yeah.
Warren,
Tulsi, Klobuchar, Warren.
Yeah,
that's 3 right there.
Well, Tulsi got voted off. She got voted off the island. She got voted off the island, though.
Right.
Why did she see? She's Russia.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, Russia.
Why
anyway, I just felt that it was relevant because the fact that these New Yorkers don't really pay attention and see the forest through the trees. They recognize themselves as liberals. They don't really understand what's going on. And sometimes when you just say, which one of these losers are you going to vote for? It brings something right in front of them that they didn't think about.
Hey, you want to hear something scary, Valerie, before I let you go? I mean, we can laugh about it now because we're kind of insulated from it a little bit. But do you know why? And I've said this before, so you might just answer it right away. But you know why Bill de Blasio is the mayor of New York City? Because Anthony Weiner lost. That's why. That's the only reason. That's the only reason.
Hates him.
Carlos Danger. He was doggone sure going to be the mayor. No ifs, ands, or buts. De Blasio tripped over that.
Have it.
Thank you,
All
Valerie.
right, well, thanks for taking my call. Speak to you guys soon.
Hey, any call you make is relevant, too, by the way. See you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. Valerie Z, ladies and gentlemen, a great friend of the show. Now, let me set this next thing up for you, Jack, because it's freaking hilarious. Last night, at the end of the hearing, the very end, there was one final question from the Democrats, and it was from Amy Klobuchar. And it got lost somehow, and then she ended up going up to the dais and writing the question right in front of the Chief Justice and handing it to him, right? And then he reads it. Now, this is the last response, and it's to the House managers. And shifty-eyed Schiff is sitting closest to the podium. And then two people down is Gerald Nadler, right? And the justice reads the question, and immediately Schiff was daydreaming. And immediately Nadler stands up and starts walking to the podium. And as he passes Adam Schiff, Schiff sees him. And Schiff was like, oh my God, he's going to take my spot. I'm the one that deserves this historic spot. And he tries to stop him. And you'll hear him as he walks by. It's kind of faint, but you'll hear it. Jerry, as he's going by, like, no. And let's listen, ladies and gentlemen. It is freaking hilarious.
The question from Senator Klobuchar is to the House managers. Could you please respond to the answer just given by the President's counsel and provide any other comments the Senate would benefit from hearing before we adjourn for the evening?
Jerry. Mr. Chief Justice, members of the Senate, we've just heard from the House, from the President's counsel.
Any other comments the Senate would benefit from hearing before we adjourn for the evening?
Jerry. Mr. Chief Justice, members of the Senate,
freaking losers.
We've just heard from the House, from the President's counsel, is the usual nonsense. There are only three as we draw to a close tonight.
Oh, man, he was, but you know what, man? He made up for it today. Oh, that guy pontificated. He would not stop saying the same things over and over and over. Just a horrible thing for...
It's desperate times for the Democrat side. I mean, today when I watched when they started rolling in there, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Nadler's not there. And I
saw that too. I'm like, they killed him already.
Oh, my gosh. It's like,
what
happened?
In reality, ladies and gentlemen, in reality, his wife has cancer.
Yeah.
And that's where he went. So God pray for him and his family.
Yes, him and his family.
On a human level, but as far as a legislative level,
that was one hell of a way to go out of his last appearance.
It was outstanding.
Jerry. Oh, Jerry.
It's written, Adam Schiff tries in vain to stop Jerry Nadler from historic impeachment trial moment.
And there's pictures of the people sitting there on all levels behind there laughing.
What did the Trump administration do? They immediately made a video of Nadler getting up from his chair in slow motion and going over to the podium, and the background music was like, don't. Oh, it was. I love the Trump administration.
They got a Jerry.
Unbelievable, but man, that Brad Parscale, he's on the money. A lot of them.
Oh my goodness!
It's
how many T-shirts sold?
Oh boy!
I saw a meme the other day. Donald Trump Jr. with Kid Rock, and he's got the Trump campaign's Bull Schiff, the picture of Adam Schiff's face, and he's wearing that shirt. So, hey, that's
I have a coffee cup. I have a coffee cup. Come on, man. Let's just let's re-elect the MFer. You know, I got that for Christmas. And I want to remind everybody, because the media is good at trying to, well, you know, one of the things that I get out of the interaction over all of this is how blatantly they are relying on us to be stupid. Have you got that feeling? I mean, the things they say, have you noticed, as a matter of fact, that nobody has mentioned the Durham investigation?
Oh, that's pushed back to the side. But
yeah.
The thing, when you talk about they think we're stupid, if you look to what's happened this week and the way the media has put up, you know, how these elected responded to Clinton's impeachment in '98.
Oh, yeah.
And then you start scratching.
Why
are these people still here now?
Oh, yeah. Good point. Hey,
why are they still here now?
That blonde-haired lady was in there, right? And my wife, and this is how I know that we're winning. Because if you know me, and you guys do, and why do you know me? Because I talk a lot, right? And I'm kind of like just imagine a football fan in front of a political thing. That's the way I am. I have to comment. I can't just let Adam Schiff sit there and lie and me not say anything. You know what I mean? And usually when I comment, that'll chase my wife out of the room. But today she was like, you go, boy, you go. You know what I mean? And so I know we're winning. She hates politics, right? But this lady gets up there, and I don't remember her name. Never seen her before in my life. The blonde-haired lady that's about 70. Right? She's out there, and my wife asked me, who's that? And I said, I never saw her before, but I know this. This is her second impeachment. She's out there because she's done this before.
Yeah, she's from California as well.
And I said, for her to be that way in the House of Representatives, I told my wife, she had to get elected 30 times because it's only 2-year terms. You know, this is the problem. Like you said, they've been there too long.
You talk about term limits, and here you got Congress. What's the complete Congress's approval ratings was in the
12.
teens.
Yeah, about 12.
You know,
no doubt.
So,
I thought Durham would have got a little bit more of a spark, though. I thought that was like one of my.
He hasn't done nothing yet. You know, there's nothing there yet.
That's true.
You know that you heard a little bit of this or that teasing during the end of the year, but.
Let's go over to Oregon and welcome Marlene to the show. Hello, Marlene.
Hey, Marlene.
Oh, let me unmute you first, Marlene. Stand by. Because you have those noises. You got those extracurricular noises. Which is no problem, but I forgot to unmute you. Go ahead, Marlene. You're good.
Well, I took them off, and I'm still, just so you know, Hutch, I'm still battling an ear infection. It's getting better, but I'm trying.
Ooh,
anyhow.
That hurts.
Oh, no shit. It does. But anyhow, I, like you, I about lost my patience with Barr. I wish he would I hate to say it, but he's almost Sessions 2.0, and I hope and pray I'm wrong.
Well, me too. And, you know, people say, and they said this about Sessions too, you wouldn't believe the ear bashing that I got when I was talking about him. You gotta wait. Yeah, well, look at that guy that they had. What was his name? The prosecutor in Utah or whatever. What a dud.
Huber.
Yeah, Huber. What a freaking dud. And I'm thinking about, all right, look, man, you have to be able to multitask. You can't come out here, not as an AG. You have to have the wide scale lens on, right? And to me...
Right, which I don't think he does.
I don't know. But I know one thing. There's two things going on right now, and I think Tom Fitton ought to be the Attorney General myself.
That would be
because he's on all of it. My biggest fear right now is
that guy is amazing.
Our electoral system is broke, and the Democrats broke it, and it should be fixed, and people should go to prison.
I agree.
There are two things.
I really do.
Two things that are the most important to me is that and the illegal immigration, because a report came out today that 42% of black likely voters are for President Trump. That defeats the Democrat no matter what else happens.
Yes. That's done deal.
And yet you're telling me that Biden's ahead in the polls and all these other lies. And what they're doing is they're trying to replace the black vote with the illegal immigrant vote. That's exactly cold-blooded what they're doing. And to me, Barr ought to be all over that. There ought to be 1,000 attorneys on that. Mm-hmm. I'm dead serious. I don't care. You can deactivate a freaking Navy ship and take all that money and hire lawyers and get this fixed. Because no matter how many ships we have, if we're corrupt in the inside, we're corrupt on those ships too.
Exactly.
That's my opinion.
I hear you.
Well, I mean,
you
also, think that
you were talking about how you comment on stuff like that, like a football fan with politics. I'm the same way.
I know, man. Does your husband put up with it?
He's the same way too, Hutch.
Outstanding.
I'm not kidding.
You have the soft throws that you can throw at the TV without having to replace it every week.
We do. And we have oh, yeah. You kidding? We have great discussions. It's wonderful.
That's outstanding.
But that's one thing with the election, that one national election every 4 years, right, for president. It's the only one that the entire country votes on. Everything else is state related, right? So you'd think they'd come up with new, because a lot of times people say states' rights, we got to run this. But there's one election, I think, that the federal government should have the ability to make a mandatory or a one way deal.
There's only one problem with that.
Vice president, right?
But there's only one problem with that, Jack. Think about that now. Barack Obama in charge, Eric Holder, Attorney General, Senate and House controlled by Democrats, and we're going to let them be in charge of the election? You know what I mean? Just think about it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying you're right, wrong, or indifferent.
Well, I always
agree
think
that there needs to be an adult in the room. I agree with that 100%. I do. I just don't trust the people.
Yeah, and I always my fail safe or my first landing point on that is in the ethical side, not the how can I manipulate this side.
Gotcha.
Which we all know that there's plenty of that going on in D.C. That's why there's a swamp, and we saw that how much more of the swamp was exposed during this impeachment. All of the folks within the NSC, all of the diplomats, all of these folks, and the folks in Congress backing them up. Oh, you can't. This is a 30-year civil servant. And it's like, yeah, nobody voted him in, and it's not his responsibility. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Any final comments before the weekend, Marlene?
Oh, let's see. Well, a little bit of news from our end of the world. I guess the legislature, they're trying to change how we deal with forest fires out here.
Oh,
and it sounds good, but what I don't like is the fact that us taxpayers have to foot the bill, of course. They want to start, thinning the brush and increasing the prescribed burns and all this stuff, over 20 years, which is fine, but it's, $200 million,
what?
Yeah.
You know what I don't understand about that, Marlene? It's kind of like here. Like I live in an industrial city. It used to be, and yet my mayor hates
million a year.
My mayor hates blue collar workers. He absolutely hates them. I mean, I put out I said it
that's horrible.
On the last show. He's afraid that white collar liberal workers will leave the city if blue collar people thrive, and it's so ridiculous. They're neighbors to each other, but he hates them. And I wonder about Oregon. I mean, Oregon's claim to fame, as you well know, is hardwood lumber.
It was for years. It was even when I was in junior high and high school out here. That's how the school districts got all of the money. It was from the timber receipts.
Right. And you would think that some of those people would have been absorbed into the government and they would have figured out how to protect their cash cow.
No.
They used to do that back in the day. And then you had the tree huggers get in there and fight with the loggers. They put in nails and stuff and ruin the loggers' equipment. And then you put in place, you got to leave all the trees alone, which in in the meantime, and you add in the wildlife, you basically shut down the controlled burns and all the stuff that prevented the massive fires.
And then you blame it on Trump. It's pretty easy. All right, Marlene, thanks for calling. You have a great weekend.
You're welcome. Okay.
Thanks, Marlene.
Let's swing over to Kentucky and welcome Rico to the show. Hello, Rico. Good evening.
Hey,
Rico.
What's going on?
What's happening?
Right now I'm smoking a 18-year-old vintage cigar right now in celebration of today's success in the Senate.
What kind of cigar is it?
Well, it's a Gran Habano, 2002 vintage. It's from Honduras, and I think it's a Corona. I'm not sure.
Do you have an elaborate humidor, or I mean, you had to do a lot of work to keep that fresh?
I went down. Normally I go down and get a cigar. I usually spend $8 to $10, so I bought two today for $4.
Okay.
This is a $4 cigar, at least at that place, and it's fantastic, man. It's got a nice draw. It's got great flavor, and I didn't think an 18-year-old cigar would taste so good.
I think on Monday I'm going to fire one of mine up. I haven't done that in a while. I think I'm going to do that.
But anyways, we also should celebrate the fact that the cops in Oregon now cannot search for other crimes when they pull somebody over. We should celebrate that fact.
Well, that whole anarchy thing, that's starting to really bite in New York City. I don't know if you followed that, but the local state government basically, I don't know all the details, but they really relaxed. They canceled cash bail is what they did. And because of that, the criminal element is not as dumb as they think they are, and they all know it. I mean, it went out it's like no matter what you do, you're going to walk before your trial. So you can just go kill 10 people, and then you're going to walk and just go to Guatemala or something. Or Oregon.
On top of the fact that you saw them attacking the officers in New York with water, and you seen them attacking an officer trying to secure an arrest, and basically just kicking him and pummeling the officer who was alone at the time trying to take down a criminal.
It's unreal.
You add that on top of the releases, no bail aspect, and you seeing some crazy stuff going on in New York City.
So what do you have there? You have an entire union segment that is going to vote for Trump. And the firefighters are too. I mean, this is the behavior, Rico, of the Democrat Party right now, to me, looks like death throes. It looks like somebody down there doing the electric dance after they get shot in the head. It's just, it's bizarre the things they're doing. And I can only attribute it to they know how bad they're going to, hopefully. I mean, I would really have a MAGA moment if in November 50% of the Democrats are voted out. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in that just because of what I've seen over the years. I think Stacey always brings the statistic up that incumbents are reelected by 90%. 90% of incumbents are reelected every cycle.
Yeah.
And yet we all sit here and talk about all these things, and Jerry Nadler gets reelected. Mitt Romney is now a senator from Utah, even though he was the governor of Massachusetts. How that happens, I have no idea. Senator Collins keeps getting reelected in Maine. That's the only...
California is kind of a lost cause, though, because I think there's a lot of election fraud going on. Illegals voting for all the senators and
sure,
all that. But what I wanted to talk to you about is I've noticed something about some of my Republican students that I tutor.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys, they go in, at least at the bachelor level, I help guys get through math stats and calculus and all that good stuff. And the funny thing is because of what's going on and how the Democrats have divided us, our Republican students are becoming kind of gun shy. They're like losing their confidence. And how does that affect them for their entire life? How does that affect them when they go for go for a job out someplace. Particularly, most jobs that you get in statistics and stuff like that are in big cities and stuff like that. And
I think a lot of them. It gives them a little bit more resolve. Now some of them probably can't wait to get. I'm talking about college students now that are not necessarily living where they grew up. They can't wait to get back home, for one thing. They're going to have a terrible taste in their mouths for the left. But it's a bully situation. That's what it is. They're afraid. They're physically afraid because of what they see on the fake news and because what they've probably seen with their own eyes. Because these communists, which is what they are, they're not Democrats. These college students that are behind Bernie, actually behind any of the Democrat candidates at this point in time, when you look at what they've said during their debates and everything else, you cannot support them and call yourself an American Democrat. You're a communist. If you support somebody that says and every one of them said they were going to outlaw AR-15s, every one of them, you're a communist. So we have to deal with that on its face. And they're evil, and they're militant, and they're getting exposed, and it's going to be an interesting year.
Yeah, and also, these biased response squads that are all over our colleges and universities, man. There are so many people that are out there working their ass off and getting their academic career absolutely destroyed just because they're Republican.
I know.
Completely destroyed, and they don't know where to go. Some of these people are going to these great schools like Stanford and all that good stuff, and they're getting ousted.
Well, you tell
a lot of them.
You listen to the Project Veritas tapes, and everybody should watch those. Everybody. If you have not seen the Bernie Sanders staffers and them quoting, well, I learned about the gulags in college. There's nothing wrong with gulags. That was just a politically... Come on, man, really? Because they're Marxists that are teaching you in college. I mean, it's pretty much universal. It's not 100% universal. You can go to Liberty University, or there's Hillsdale. There's other places to go. But I would suggest you go to welding school myself. But that's just me.
Well, yeah. There's some things you go to school for to get a job. There's other things that you do that you're not going to have the opportunity. But usually you got to at least get a master's degree to even get looked at. Especially in the sciences and engineering and things like that.
Right, but the thing is, that's not what they're doing. These kids are getting degrees in communications and in social science and things that environmental issues. You're not going to make any money doing that. You might as well go learn to be a carpenter because you're going to make 10 times more money. For one thing, I mean, to me, the whole, and it's rampant. I mean, these kids, it's been drilled in not only to the kids, but to the parents that if you don't go to college, you're a loser. Well, I would submit that it's the opposite. You go and spend $100,000 and you don't know what you're going to get. You're the dumbass, not me.
Yes, it's not bad being completely self-reliant, knowing that if your car breaks down, you can fix it. Your lawn equipment breaks down, you can fix it. You got a leaky roof, you can fix it on your own. That's one of the things that's missing. We talked about civics.
Or if you get something for $5 and you can sell it for $10, you're going to do good.
Exactly. You can turn around and take care of yourself. That's what's missing today, right?
Just look at the drug dealers. If they would have just went on the real side, they'd be selling sweatshirts and getting rich.
Mm-hmm.
If they use good.
I would like to invite you and your entire crew to Kentucky.
Okay.
For cigars and bourbon, and I'll give you every one of you guys a free photo shoot.
All right, man. Good deal.
Hey, in Kentucky, that's Mitch's home state. He's up.
You got to watch
how the election look like.
I spent some time in Kentucky in the Army, and you got to be careful. Some of those counties are dry, man. I can't do dry counties.
Not this one. I'm in Marshall County. That it was dry before I got here, which was about 4 or 5 years ago. But it is now not dry.
All right.
Matter of fact, I just went down. I bought me a Yingling's Amber, and that's what I'm going to pop a top to the Senate today when I get off talking to you guys. So
All right,
I'm good. So, like I said, I'm going to invite every one of you guys down for cigars and bourbon and free photo shoot.
What's the county that was dry? I think it was Radcliffe. Is that a county in Kentucky? Radcliffe.
I have no idea.
Fort Knox, Fort Knox area, but. Yeah, that's you talk about Yuengling. I've been in that brewery. As a matter of fact, Dick Yuengling poured me a beer in there, in a boot, one of those boot mugs. Yeah, that brewery is the oldest brewery, the oldest brewery that has been brewing, ever since it opened. During Prohibition, they brewed near beer, but they continued to brew. And the interesting thing about the brewery is it's cut into the side of a mountain. It's in Schuylhaven. It's in Schuylhaven, Pennsylvania, or is it in Pottsville? It's in one of those two. I think it's in Schuylhaven, but it might be in Pottsville. But yeah,
what I like about this amber, man, it's nicely hopped, so it's got a wonderful aroma. It's got some great taste.
But they have temperature control where they brew their beer. They don't need like refrigeration units. It's because it's in a cave. It's pretty neat, as a matter of fact.
It's like a stable temperature environment.
It's been there for, hell, when I lived there, it was in the 80s, and they were on year 157 then, so I don't know how long they've been going. But all right, Rico, thanks for the call. Always appreciate it.
Thanks, Rico.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right, let's go to Alan Dershowitz, man. He's catching hell. Have you heard the hell he's catching from the Democrats? They used to love him.
What he did during the impeachment, went out there and laid out his argument, and then went straight up and to every single lion's den on the media and just sat there and took their slings and arrows and just said, "Hey, I'm just up there trying to relate what the Constitution means in this instance."
Yeah, no doubt. And he was on there today talking about Nadler and Schiff and their standards. Let's listen to him in his own words. Alan Dershowitz.
He's here to respond. He's the author of Guilt by Accusation. Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz. I might imagine these are people that perhaps over the years have liked you and respected you. This crosses a line. Lockhart in particular crosses a line because really they're going to compare you to Hitler. They're going to go that far because you dared to have a different opinion based on really sound knowledge, the Constitution, our founders, our framers, and you laid it out, and they just hate the fact that they disagree with you, and I guess you were so effective.
Well, I think the reason they really came after me is they saw after I made my talk and after I answered those questions, many of the senators gathered around me, including Democrats, and they all said how they were impressed by my constitutional presentation. And remember that the point I was making was about the senators. What I said is, if you have mixed motives, if you are in the public interest and you're trying to help the public, but you're also trying to get reelected, according to Schiff and Nadler, that's a crime. If you have any inkling of motive to help yourself get reelected, they call that corrupt. And they say even a tiny amount of motive to help yourself makes you into a criminal and makes you impeachable. And I turned to all the senators and I said, everybody in this room, every senator, every politician, everywhere, always has one eye toward reelection, another eye toward the public interest. They almost always think it's the same. They also think their own election is in the public interest. You can't make that an impeachable offense. But I never, ever said or suggested or implied that a president can do anything he wants if he thinks his election will help the public interest. That was just a lie, a distortion, and it was stated by Schiff, it was stated by Nadler, it was stated by Schumer, it was stated by virtually everybody on CNN and MSNBC, and it was just categorically false.
Aid was never discussed at all in the phone call, but corruption was discussed. The Ukraine, the only fact witness said, I want nothing, no quid pro quo. Ukraine got all of their money. They did nothing. They promised to do nothing. Even if the president said to Bolton or anybody else, I'd like to punch this guy in the face and not give him a penny unless he does A, B, or C, it didn't work out that way. And people can't be punished for their thoughts, I don't think, Professor, can they?
Well, what I worry about is the same theory could put Joe Biden in jail. If somebody could claim that 99% of Biden's motivation in getting the prosecutor fired was the public interest in preventing corruption, but 1% in the back of his mind, he was thinking, maybe this could help my son a little bit because he works for the company that's being investigated, according to Nadler and Schiff, that would be enough.
Well,
According
let me
to
appeal
Nadler
to
and
your
Schiff,
common sense.
Lincoln gets impeached.
So a vice president of the United States...
Lincoln gets impeached.
A vice president of the United
So there is basically Sean Hannity, one of the most inept interviewers I've ever listened to. The guy's coup de grace. The one thing he wanted to say was that under Schiff's rules, Abraham Lincoln would have got impeached. And you heard there right at the end, Sean Hannity yucking it up and wanted everybody to look at him instead of listening to the guest. I mean, Jack, if we have Alan Dershowitz on our show, do you think that the audience wants to hear what you have to say or what I have to say, or do they want to hear what Dershowitz has to say?
You want to hear with the guest, right?
Exactly. And I don't understand. Well, I do understand why. I mean, Hannity's a walking ego monster. And you know, I like the guy, but when I hear things like that, and I shouldn't have broke it down like that. I should have kept it on message. But I hear things like that. I pick them up, and it's like, come on, man.
Well, the professor ran the gauntlet over the past 2 days. I mean, every single show that wanted him on got him.
Yeah,
and it didn't matter.
Even The View. We played.
He went on The View, and they like had a staged. They
had a stroke.
Assassin's nest of whatever they got going on that show. They were like trying to shut him down, and we got
There's a lot of
talk to the hand, Professor. Talk to the hand.
There's a lot of weight gain going on that program. I don't know if you noticed that, but it's pretty rampant.
No, I don't watch the show. I mean, I know what it is. I know what it's like, and it's fine for those that want to watch it. And I guess they're just like tuning up. Maybe after they take the kids to school, they come back. They want to watch that before their soap operas.
It's good with their Valium. Yeah, Valium and a little shot of vodka.
The deal about But hey, now we can we even say that these days?
I'm going to say it. I'll tell you a story. Sal, my Wednesday co-host, when he let me do this without getting him in trouble. He has a job, a career that puts him in close proximity with people, movers and shakers in the city, right? And this is a communist city, communist ruled city. Not the people that live here so much; they're just not paying attention. I think the Steelers are the only NFL team that hasn't lost. People coming to the games. And it's never going to happen here, no matter what the politics. It's not going to happen.
What was that big global event that happened in Pittsburgh where you had the LRADs and the sound devices?
The G20, yeah. And that's a good point, because let me just make a plug to our patrons here. If you want to become a patron, you go to steelcityresistance.com, and in the right-hand column, you can become a Cold War Radio patron and decide how much we are worth to you with our 3 programs a week. But patrons get 2 additional programs a week on Saturdays and Sundays. And on Saturdays, we've started the Berg's Eye View, which was my first show. that started back in 2006. It has nothing to do with politics. It's just a funny, check it out. We're in Iraq right now. I was deployed to Iraq, and I took the show there. And after 3 episodes, I'm already back home on leave. So there's a couple episodes coming up that are going to be probably drunk episodes. Imagine a soldier coming back from Iraq, you know. But anyway, where you're not allowed to drink, but I was a CW4, so I have my own rules. But the point is that I came back from Iraq in October of 2008, and starting in October 2008, the viewers, our patrons that are following this, listeners actually, that's a radio show, are going to be able to access Berg's Eye View's blog. I haven't provided the link yet because the episodes that we're doing now weren't covered. I didn't make the blog until after I got home from Iraq. But there's an entire section there on the G20. I was actually involved in that.
Holy moly, you're uncovering the website from 2008?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You didn't come across any of Hillary's emails and stuff while you was dusting this off.
We'll talk about that later. But anyway, there's a lot of pictures. I was involved in that. My cousin has a gym, and one of his billboards was kind of mocking. You remember the Got Milk billboards? Well, he kind of mocked that for his gym, and they called him sexist. And so they called his gym out, as a target for the G20. Well, I called him up. I'm like, JG, man, you want me to come hang around or what? He said, yeah, man, Hutch, you could do that. Because his gym is in a real exclusive neighborhood in the city, and it's nothing but plate glass windows, man. You know how gyms are. They got the plate glass windows and the 20
they were expecting some violence, right?
The 20 exercise bikes in front of the windows, and everybody's exercising, so it's really good advertisement. Yeah. So me and him, and he hired a Navy SEAL, an ex-Navy SEAL, but he made him put his gun in the gym, right? But I told the Navy SEAL, hey, don't worry. See that Toyota right over there? There's a 12 gauge in the back seat with double up buck all the way full. We were serious, and we stood out there, and nobody messed with us, man. They did not. They looked at us, and a couple people came and tried to taunt us, but no, wasn't going to happen. So that was interesting. So anyway, that's just a little sidebar. Become a Cold War Radio patron, and you're going to get all that. I got to move on here. We're way behind, like we usually are.
As usual, huh?
Elizabeth Warren, we're in the silly season now when these people do things that are just unbelievable. You can pretty much thank Elizabeth Warren for the no vote on witnesses tonight, and Murkowski even called her out for what you're getting ready to hear when she changed her vote from yes to no. Now, Mitt Romney and Susan Collins, every tweet that I tweet about those two, I add the Twitter handles, and I'd urge you to do this too, ladies and gentlemen. Hold the people responsible that have put these cancers on us. At Utah GOP and at Maine GOP. Let the people that are funding these morons know that you know why they're there. It's because of you, GOP. That's the way it is. Let's listen to Pocahontas and her disrespectful silly season operation.
Mr. Chief Justice.
Senator from Massachusetts.
Mr. Chief Justice, I send a question to the desk.
Thank you. The question from Senator Warren is for the House managers. At a time when large majorities of Americans have lost faith in government, does the fact that the Chief Justice is presiding over an impeachment trial in which Republican senators have thus far refused to allow witnesses or evidence contribute to the loss of legitimacy of the Chief Justice, the Supreme Court, and the Constitution?
Can you imagine what a bottom feeder to say that to a man with his, and I don't like Chief Justice Roberts. I don't.
Roberts did the ACA thing,
Well, I still want to know what the NSA has on him. That's what it is to me. I mean, I don't know.
But like
that's
you
my,
just mentioned,
Murkowski
today came out and said basically, given the partisan nature of this impeachment from the very beginning and throughout, I have come to the conclusion that there will be no fair trial in the Senate. I don't believe the continuation of this process will change anything. It is sad for me to admit that as an institution, the Congress has failed. It has also become clear some of my colleagues intend to further politicize this process and drag the Supreme Court into the fray while attacking the Chief Justice. And basically, what you had said, Warren pulling that question out yesterday turned Murkowski into...
Yeah, and I mean, this is what I mean about the communists in Bernie's camp, because they're no different than the communists in Warren's camp. This is how they are. They have no manners. They're not civilized. They are not. They are so spoiled and ruined by our failing collegiate system.
Well, do you
that
think
they actually think, Jack, that they're living through hard times? That's how pussified they are. I mean, just I'll tell you what I refer to all the time. I refer to art, photographic art. Go to any museum. Well, you don't have to go to a museum. Go online and look at any picture of a family or a group of men and women back when we were settling this country. Anyway, I mean back until pre-electricity. And you look at the women and you look at the expression on the women's faces, and it is always anger.
It's hard.
Can you imagine having to go to the river or the pond or the lake in February and wash your family's clothes?
Or just draw water.
Every Monday. Every Monday. That was wash day. That's why you can't burn garbage on Mondays, because it's wash day and all the wash is out on the line because there's no dryers.
No dryers.
No washing machines. No supermarkets. If old boy isn't, and he's going to shoot it, but he's going to make her clean it. Any food that they eat. And these young punks think they're living through something that's hard, and that's just unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, your weekly Jihad report: 34 jihad attacks, 314 killed, 206 injured, 3 Allahu Akbars, suicide blasts, all occurring in 14 countries. The religion of peace atrocity of the week: scores of people were killed in Burkina Faso on Saturday in an attack believed to have been carried out by jihadists. State broadcaster Radio Télévision du Burkina, RTB, confirmed yesterday that dozens were killed but gave no further information. Other recent misunderstandings of Islam: on the 30th in Cameroon, 5 locals are machine gunned by Boko Haram. On the 29th, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, 36 villagers hacked to death by Islamic militants. On the 29th, in Pakistan, terrorists opened fire on polio workers. They still have polio in Pakistan, killing 2. On the 27th, in Yemen, 3 people succumbed to injury following an Ansar Allah attack on a market. On the 26th, in Nigeria, a 12-year-old boy is among 3 worshipers purged by a suicide bomber at a rival mosque. And as I said, on the 25th, in Burkina Faso, 40 villagers massacred by Islamic militants. Note, data for each attack is sometimes pulled from multiple sources. The provided link may not be in complete agreement with the updated detail for the incident. The religion of peace. Ladies and gentlemen, one body at a time.
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
right. That never changes, man. And it doesn't. I go back through the archives. We're playing Steel City Resistance on Sunday for the patrons. And don't miss that, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a patron, get your money's worth. That's a video. That's a TV show there. And Ward and I mean, it doesn't change, man. We were doing this way back then. It's unbelievable.
It doesn't. And you look at the media. I haven't seen a media report from that region this week. You have the current issue with the global, the worries about the Chinese flu virus thing that's going on. You have the Mexican stuff going on. You have the Super Bowl going on, but you don't hear any reports. And there's very little bit. Earlier this week, the president, along with Prime Minister Netanyahu, announced the proposed solution to the Israel-Palestine deal.
And it shows you immediately you see how transparent that is. They don't want a state. If you understand what Palestine
and it's not even on the news.
Palestine
I haven't seen it on the news since that day.
No, it's horrible. The news coverage today is anybody who follows that's crazy. I can't believe that we don't have 75 million listeners to this show. Just the things that we bring out that they don't. I'm very proud of that, and I don't know. Let's listen to crying Chuck Schumer at the end of this thing. He's not going to give it up either. This isn't the last clip he provided. It's just that the last clip he provided was too close to the show for me to include it. But let's listen to this one.
Would you move to amend a motion to proceed to the articles, and if so, how many times?
I am not going to I'm going to talk with my caucus. I do believe this. I believe that the American people should hear what every senator thinks and why they're voting the way they're voting. And we will do what we can to make sure that happens, but I'm not going to get into any details. I have to discuss it with my caucus.
Senator,
Yes.
Thank you for doing this. So, Andy, can you explain what's going to happen on the floor if there's a tie and Chief Roberts breaks the tie? My understanding is that the Senate can overrule him, so what's the point in him having that authority to break the tie?
Well, I'm not going to get into that. I just say this. If it's a tie, it'll be up to the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice knows that every trial has witnesses and documents. Yes, in the back there. Nope, you'll go next.
Would you like to see open deliberations, and for how long for each senator?
Well, again, I'm not going to get into the details. We're going to decide that in the caucus. We always have an inclination to do open, but sometimes open is hard. To open up the caucus if you go into closed session, if you do, it takes 2/3 to open it up.
You ever notice that all these all these correspondents and all these people that they claim are Americans, that none of them are? Where'd she come from? I'd like to know, Mr. Come on, man.
It's funny that one question about the Chief Justice breaking a tie. One of the final things Schumer did was ask Roberts how would he deal with a 50-50 vote. What would he do? And he basically.
Oh, did you hear that?
Put that on Roberts, and Roberts said,
that was Schumer. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
because that's the one I didn't have time to bring on the show.
And Roberts, what did he say? He goes,
this guy got out there. This Schumer, this schmuck, this freaking slob from New York, got out there, and he's so damn stupid. He tried to out jurisprudent, talk about judicial review to the Chief Justice of the United
on point.
That was so beautiful because
Roberts had him right there.
Oh man,
right?
Schumer came out and was like, "Do you realize in the Johnson impeachment in 1867 that the Chief Justice at the time broke a tie twice?"
Yeah.
And Roberts was like, "Why, yes, Senator, I am very well aware of that," and he freaking read 3 pages.
One of the times was we were breaking for lunch.
Right. The other
he broke
was
the tie and said, "Yeah, we want to eat."
Oh,
the other
he
time,
made such
it was
an
all
ass.
Inconsequential times where he broke the tie.
That
it
was
had nothing
beautiful.
to do with the whole case, right?
You got to admit that there I should have, but it was right before the show, Jack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everything was shut down, and I mean.
So, you think that little?
I'm glad you brought that up.
Little clip that you played triggered him to ask that question. I got the justice now. He don't know nothing.
I mean, if you're the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States, and you know, because he's known for a year, that he's going to have to preside over this, you don't think that he read every single word of every impeachment that there ever was? You don't think he did that?
To include that article that you found that we were talking about earlier about the responsibility of the Chief Justice in this. He's like, I got no problems here.
He's just New York stupid times 3. That's all it is. I think these people have ruined their careers. I do. I'm talking about Schumer,
I don't know. This
Pelosi.
United States,
Well, let's
you
see
look
what
at these people that we've elected, especially in the major states, and you see what we have.
Yeah, I do.
That's why we're here.
All right, we got a lot of funny things to cover here in a minute. But first, before we do that, let me make sure. It's my last clip, and it's relatively long. It's 5 minutes, but I want you to listen to Newt Gingrich. Well, first, we're going to hear from some people, and they're you know how Rush does the montages. Well, the newest meme is, well, President Trump's a king. He thinks he's a king. That's what they're trying to say, just because they misquoted him for saying, I could do whatever I want because of that. And that was because of firing somebody that worked for him, which, of course, he can do whatever he wants with somebody that works for him. But they've made that into he can do whatever he wants about anything. And just to hear that, and all the other things that Adam Schiff has said. And by the way, one of the people that calls him a king is the former RNC chief, Steele, if you remember him. What a traitor.
Michael Steele.
What a freaking traitor, man. This guy, I can't believe he ever got allowed into the Republican Party. Let's listen to Newt Gingrich and others.
And since Democrats' case for impeachment has, well, it's always been weak. We've laid it out for you for months, what they were going to try to do. We predicted a lot along the way. Well, they've had to substitute actual evidence with lies, smears, and made up Putin conversations. Well, now they have another one.
The argument put forward by the president's lawyers yesterday is a King Trump defense.
I mean, that's what kings do. That's not what presidents do.
It elevates the presidency to a place that we as Americans do not want our presidents to be, and that is in this sort of hierarchy, this sort of kingship.
Down with the king. Well, I don't remember them fretting over the checks and balances under Obama, even after he said this.
I'm also going to act on my own if Congress is deadlocked. I've got a pen to take executive actions where Congress won't, and I've got a telephone to rally folks around the country on this mission.
Obama pen and phoned his way through DACA and costly climate policies. Joining me now is Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor, and host of Newt's World podcast. All right, Newt. The Democrats' about face on executive power and how it should be used is quite something to behold tonight.
Look, I think there's a very easy model here. Whatever Trump does, they oppose. They have no historic memory. They're so fascinated by Trump that he erases anything they might have said in the past. But I think you put your finger a minute ago on probably the key test for the Democrats that will define them for the rest of this year up to the election. That is, let's say Friday or Saturday that this is over, that the Senate has acquitted the president, he's innocent, all of the lies and things told by Schiff have collapsed. They've got to decide next week at the State of the Union. Do they want to work with this president for the rest of the year? Or do they want to continue this kind of unending hostility? And the country, I think, having gotten very tired by every poll I've seen, really doesn't want to see more bickering. So the burden is going to be on the Democrats, having done everything they could for 3 years to destroy President Trump, having failed. Do they continue for the next 8 or 10 months to try to investigate, attack, smear, whatever? Or do they say, okay, let's get a couple things done before the election to prove that we're a party that can be positive? And I think next Tuesday night at the State of the Union is going to be a very important moment. And the attitude that Pelosi and Schumer take into this is really important. I mean, they better extend an olive leaf.
Mitch
and
McConnell
decide
blew all that.
They're going to find a way to work together, or
I don't think so.
The country will decide that. Well, the country will then decide that they're pathological. That what they're dealing with is a psychological condition.
Yeah. Well, Newt, speaking of pathological, I keep referring to this, but we have the soundbite now. This is Adam Schiff. After he made up that transcript that got him into so much trouble, he said it was a joke. Tonight, he made up a conversation that the president could have had with Vladimir Putin. Watch.
If the president went further and said to Putin in that secret meeting, I want you to hack Burisma. I couldn't get the Ukrainians to do it. And I'll tell you what, if you hack Burisma and you get me some good stuff, then I'm going to stop sending money to Ukraine.
The man is, I mean, it is a pathological, it's a reflexive Pavlovian response to Trump. You have to just make stuff up. You can't argue the case. You have to make it up.
Look, but I think also comment on Schiff. I mean, Schiff personally is obviously a deranged human being. This is about Schiff.
In Roman
Schiff is a guy who's a pathological liar. He seems to have no ability to distinguish between the truth and falsehood. He lied for 2.5 years about the Russian collusion. It all disintegrated. He looked like a fool. He learned nothing. He came back and lied again and again. And you're right. Here we are at the end of this cycle, and he goes back and decides to lie again. I mean, I think somehow people have got to decide that Adam Schiff is a compulsive, uncontrollable liar, should be dealt with that way. Listen, a healthy house
and he
would
likes young
strip
black
him
men.
of the Intelligence Committee. I mean, how could you ever expect the president and the CIA and others to share secrets with a person who's this profoundly publicly dishonest? And I think this is a Schiff problem that we've learned over the last few months. This guy literally is a pathological liar.
Well,
you know, Jack, I've.
How many times did he say pathological liar in that?
He is, though, really. I mean, if you look at what he says, I was bitching all day today. He doesn't get up and talk unless he's going to lie.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just when you think
he embellishes,
think
he
about
creates stories. He's a failed actor wannabe, and he's a triply failed screenwriter.
And apparently he likes young gay black meth heads, or at least Ed
the
Buck
buck
does.
stops here. The
Ed
buck
Buck
stops
does,
here.
yeah. You know, I mean, and dressed up in Roman garb, and you know, but you know, the thing
Hail
is,
Caesar.
think about what we're saying here. All right, these people, half the country, and Brett Baer and everybody else, Chris Wallace, is all thinking and saying and cheering that John Bolton should testify. Now think about that for a second. Think about, all right, now you're the president, Jack, and you hire me to be your national security advisor. And we're up against an evil world out there. And me and you talk about different things in different countries and in different situations and what are we going to do. And all of a sudden, now I have to testify.
Yeah, I find out that you're a deep state military industrial complex.
No, but I'm just saying, if I'm your confidant,
and I fire you and you get mad, you write a book.
Right, and now I got to go in and testify. Now, what national security advisor in their right mind going forward, if we would have let this happen, would ever speak candidly to a president? He's not going to get the truth because people are going to think, shit, if I say the wrong thing and he fires me, I'm going to be, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there's
ridiculous.
One big thing here, right? And you're touching on it. Schiff and all those folks that are trying to impeach President Trump are trying to eliminate that separation of power. the executive branch, President Trump and his advisors and his cabinet, is a separate entity.
That was
of
my
a
whole point.
three-tiered government.
I wasn't stepping around it. That's exactly what I was saying. I mean, the executive has to have the confidence that what he says to people is not going to be made public, and vice versa.
Exactly.
Even I have no love. I have no love for Bolton. Bolton's a backstabber at best and a freaking traitor at worst.
That's only if the book comes out and says what they supposedly leaked.
If that happened, if that was true, and he was a decent guy, he would have came out and held a press conference. You know what I mean? This is it's gone too far now. He hadn't said anything.
Swamp works, right?
It's like Sessions.
Swamp.
It's like Sessions, right?
These people are.
And he did go to a conference yesterday and stood up for Vindman, stood up for the ambassador. You know what I mean? The guy's a snake. He's always been a snake. But
so then you sit there and say,
he used to be my snake. You know, now he's not.
Council on Foreign Relations. Remember that. That's a non-governmental entity.
That's right.
That seeks to rule, to set precedents and set policy.
Well, they'll tell you.
When you sit,
they'll tell you that. They'll tell you that they're the real government. The seventh floor of Foggy Bottom.
They come up with this stuff. And you talk about some hellacious. Remember when President Trump got elected and he's like, we're going to take out Obamacare and replace it, bring back the private health care. We had a great bill, which was Congressman Price, who President Trump actually pulled in as Health and Human Services Secretary. But Paul Ryan didn't put that bill up. He came with a bill that was written by
Fox
Chamber
News.
of Commerce folks?
Paul, every time you watch Fox News, just think Paul Ryan. He's pulling the strings, apparently. All right, let's get into the silly season and what these people are saying, because now it's getting down. Now they have to stab each other because Iowa's coming up so quickly. Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden is the biggest risk to defeating Donald Trump. Pocahontas, transgender child. Now, first of all, to me, transgender child says to me, parent should be in prison. That's what transgender
She's
child
trying to one up
says
Greta
to me.
Thunberg, who they sent worldwide as far as the spokesperson on global warming. Now she's going to one up that with a transgender child is going to do what?
How dare you? How dare you? How dare you continue to look away? People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing.
Entire ecosystems.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
How dare you? So Elizabeth Warren says that a transgender child must approve her education secretary.
Otherwise, it's not kosher. Wait, you can't say that either. Oh, what have I done? How
Lord
dare
have
I?
Let's go to Amy Klobuchar. Multiple racial justice groups have called on White House hopeful Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat, Minnesota stan. No, she's from Michigan. Same difference, Michiganistan, to suspend her presidential campaign after a story from the AP highlighted her role in a case during her time as Hennepin County's district attorney. As DA for the county, Klobuchar led the case against Mayan Burrell, who was sentenced to life in prison for the 2002 murder of 11-year-old Tyesha Edwards. At the time of his sentencing, Burrell was a teenager. He is now 33 years old, and the AP story revealed that Klobuchar prosecuted Burrell without substantial evidence and dismissed a confession from the co-defendant who claimed Burrell was not at the scene. So They're starting to eat themselves, man. This is inevitable. All you have to do is look back in history and look at what happened with Hitler's brown shirts, the SA and the SS, and the communists and the union, the labor unions. He killed everybody.
Next Monday is the first voting thing in Iowa's the caucus, right?
The caucuses, yeah.
So, with Klobuchar, I looked at that. It's like that person involved in that case who was convicted, sentenced to life, has already had an appeal, and it was tried again. Klobuchar had nothing to do with that, was reconvicted, so he failed to win the appeal. Yet now
it's just fun to watch. It's fun to watch, though. It really is. It's silly season. It's silly season. Nervous Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, attacked President Trump's lawyers and suggested they should be disbarred. Disbarred. Angus King says that without witnesses, Trump can't say he was exonerated. And I told you about Newt Gingrich already. You heard him. Hillary Clinton, above the law. Hillary Clinton, Tulsi Gabbard served her with papers, and Hillary wouldn't accept the legal documents from Tulsi's defamation suit, but I have an update on that, and that lawyer,
you got him now.
That lawyer has seen the light, and Hillary Clinton has hereby been removed from potential presidential candidates because she's getting ready to get her money taken. And they're going to do it. I mean, she called Tulsi Gabbard's a veteran, and I can't stand the fact that she's a Democrat, and I also can't stand the fact that Hawaii's a state. Hawaii should not be a state. Alaska, I can think about Alaska, but Hawaii should be just like the Virgin Islands or something. It shouldn't be a state. No, sorry, not having it. These people, Hirono, have you listened to her? What's good come out of Hawaii? That was a loser. Whoever bought that state ought to be fired.
Tulsi, she's she serves in the military, National Guard, or the reserves. I don't know, but she also, I guess, if you think about it, even though I don't want a socialist government, she, instead of backing Hillary Clinton, she backed Bernie Sanders before. So I think that's one of the reasons why the Hildebeest decided to, say that she is only a Russian plant. Well, let's take it to court there, Miss Clinton Foundation, and
that's right,
see how much money you can lose.
Damn right, man. Exclusive 3 illegals among 6 fentanyl ring suspects freed by New York City. Can you believe that? Is de Blasio, and let me tell you my strategy for this, and I've said this publicly. If anyone in my family is ever hurt by an illegal scumbag that my mayor skirted federal law and allowed to live near me, I will sell my house and ruin that son of a bitch. I will. And that's what they should do to de Blasio or to Cuomo for this. Whoever. You need to start holding these communists accountable and do it with money. I really mean that, Jack. This is something that we have to fight back. If we don't, because that's what they're counting on. They're counting on us never fighting back.
They think
6
it's wearing
fentanyl ring
you
suspects.
down. It's much like, you see a pattern. You see them capturing control of the education system, failing to teach our children, our grandchildren, skills or
just a lack of critical
basically self-reliance. You depend on yourself. The more you know, the more you learn, the more you can take care of yourself, the better you serve your country. Because when the shit hits the fan, you might be the one that's going to save the neighborhood because you know how to take care of yourself. You know how to delegate authorities and get people on their own feet.
Well said.
And to eliminate the folks that all they're going to do is raise their hands to the sky, and instead of praying to the Lord, the God, for guidance, they're going to be begging for the government to come save them, and they're not going to do it.
Well said, sir. You are so spot on. And I'll give you an analogy of my own life. I'm born and raised, I was born in D.C., but I was raised in Pittsburgh. An urban guy. And when I'm in my 20s, I get, I join the Army and I do my tour. And when I come back, there's no work here, so I move out to central Pennsylvania, and I immediately realize how much I do not know about life. You know, the concept of paying somebody individually for removing my garbage was foreign to me. I didn't know that you could only have 2 bags and whatever when you're doing it on the commercial market, because I'm used to, the government taking care of all that. I even got into an argument with a guy about, I thought that, 25 caliber Saturday night specials were worthless and should be banned. Boy, I learned a lesson there.
No.
And another time, there was other times. There was a lot of other times. So I realized I need to learn a little bit, and I learned how to butcher, and I learned how to do a lot of things and become more, like you said, self-reliant. As a matter of fact, that's one of my joys in life. When I go to Camp Vienna, I go up there to beat the man because I got everything under control. I got the heat, you know what I mean? Right. It's just like I'm in control.
You're right by the river. You don't have to have water pumped in your place. You can go grab you a bowl and get there, boil it, and then boom.
But these kids aren't into that. Kids aren't into that. They want to, and I got several iPhone chargers and all that out there. But anyway, have you ever heard of Mark Ruffalo? Who the hell's Mark Ruffalo?
Hollywood type.
He comes out and he says, one way or another, we are going to kick Trump's ass. Mark, let me explain something to you, Mark. You're tough on the set, if that's where you work. But you got to go through us first to do that. You're not going to be able to do that, my man. I'm just telling you. You guys that are listening to this show, and I know there's a lot of you, understand that we're on the right side of this. And we're the strongest party here. Guaranteed. 10 years ago, these Democrats would have been terrified to be identified with socialists.
Yeah, if you don't think that's true, just think back a couple of weeks. There was the Golden Globe Awards where you had that British comic who was a complete and total leftist come up and basically put Hollywood in their place. Right? Yeah. He said, you come up here, you thank the people for the awards.
You're stupid.
And you just basically shut the F up.
You've never done anything. You've never done anything in your life. Right. You've never taken a risk. You never took one to the jaw. Nothing. Right? And another one, yesterday, was Super Bowl Media Day. And Kansas City Chiefs defensive end, a black American, Frank Clark, wore a Trump sweatshirt to the media event. Clark was asked about his choice of attire. He responded, "Oh, man, I got it from my girlfriend. I'll never forget it, man. Y'all know the moment when Donald Trump met Kanye. A historical moment in our history." Thank God for Kanye, man. Love him or leave him.
I saw a report today, something about 42%.
42, yep. Rasmussen.
Of African Americans.
Rasmussen report.
Yeah.
That's huge.
You can't argue, if you're the Democrats, you can't abandon the African Americans. You can't abandon the unions. You can't abandon coal. You can't do that. And then all of a sudden, since you lost to President Trump, you can't come back and say, "Hi, we're the Democrat. We supported you for years. You gonna take us back?" And they're gonna be like, "No, we're fat and happy right now with Trump."
Right.
Yeah, right. Bad. Yeah, orange man, good.
All right,
not
so
bad.
Let me talk to Vanessa. Not Vanessa. Come on, Hutch. Let me talk to Valerie and anybody else out there that has friends, family, or whatever that are a little too lazy to be critical thinkers and are supporting these communists that are telling you they're Democrats. The collapse of a society. Venezuelan state-owned oil company. Now understand that underneath Venezuela is a shit ton of oil. A lot. A lot. Venezuelan state-owned oil company shuts down last 2 operating refineries for repairs. Socialism in action. They're starving, and they have resources under their feet that should make them the richest country in South America, which they were, in Central America, rather. Actually, they were the richest nation in South America. That's socialism, ladies and gentlemen. It's really quite plain and simple. Quite plain and simple.
What happens when you take complete control of the money rolling in and you stop paying the people that are making sure that those wells and the processing and the refineries are running at top-notch speed? For those listening, last I know that the Venezuelan oil used to be what was sold at Citgo.
Citgo, yeah. They've all closed in Pittsburgh, by the way. All the Citgos are now marathons.
I'm not sure if Citgo still does Venezuelan oil, but
they don't have. There is no Venezuelan oil. I just told you they shut down the last 2.
Right,
it's over. It's over. They can go there and they can try to eat that, but it's not going to work. You know what I mean?
And it's a shame. It's a damn shame.
It's a cry. And I don't know. I know a lot of Venezuelans, and I love them.
Those folks don't deserve that.
No,
what
they don't.
Happened to them?
Well, yes, they do. Yes, they do. They voted it in. It's like the guy that came out let me think here. I responded to a guy that tweeted about thanking a certain Virginia representative because concealed carry permits had increased since the last month. And I'm like, no, man, you guys, you lost your Second Amendment. You voted in people that took it away. You did it. Nobody else did it to you. You did it.
You had the big Second Amendment.
That's right.
Rally last week, and what happened this week? Virginia.
Right. You guys are lost.
Government passed 5 laws against the Second Amendment.
And you ever know? And I wanted to make sure I said this during this episode. Virginia is a perfect example of what voting Democrat gets you. What is the first, before the ballots were even totally counted, they told you they were going to screw you. They told you they were going to make rules that made your life miserable. That's what they do, ladies and gentlemen. They hate you. They frickin' hate you. All of them. Every Democrat in the government hates the average American. Take it to the bank, baby.
You saw what happened. The last Republican governor we elected
went to jail for a watch. Went to jail for a freaking watch. A watch.
And then after the damage was done, they rescinded it, right?
As his wife was still in jail. Yeah.
The same thing. Well, a similar, remember in Alaska, why Murkowski is in that Senate seat. They took out
Roberts.
Took out
Robert Stevens.
They took out the senator. Yeah, Stevens. Senator Stevens.
And that was DOJ malfeasance.
That was the government.
The same Rosenstein and all them did that to him.
The damage was done. Murkowski was put in, and about a year later, they just basically wiped that away and said, "Oh, bad. Our bad. We didn't have the evidence. I'm sorry you lost your Senate seat and were convicted, but we're going to pull the conviction away. You're good to go."
And if you're hungry, we'll take care of you because this is what we do.
When we get ready to close late night, and all the bartenders and all, we call it the $5 bag. Anything we got left over, we fix them a $5 bag. About $8 worth of food for $5.
$5. So if you're hungry, All right, it's Cold War Radio on Friday with Jack and Hutch Bailey Jr. And it's time for winners and losers. Your winners and losers, Mr. Jack from the Northern.
We talked about. You opened the show up with a Scottish salute to the United Kingdom. Finally, over 3+ years after the folks in England voted to Brexit, break free of the European Union. They officially did today. There's still a lot of things that need to happen. But I think I heard President Trump at the rally the other day saying that Europe is next as far as the trade deal. So I hope he talks with the folks in the UK first. Loser. Talked about him a little bit earlier. Senator Chuck Schumer. I'm sure he doesn't like having to do what he's done all day. Whine, bitch, moan, try his level best to summon some kind of victory from the Democrat side in the Senate as far as this impeachment is going, but he's going to fail miserably. You might have tears and excessive liberal tears because we won, folks. President Trump is going to win. He's going to be acquitted. They may make him perform the State of the Union address still under
That's
impeachment.
ridiculous. That's ridiculous, too.
Yeah.
That whole thing. Mitch.
That's on McConnell.
Yeah, it is. It is. Mitch, we got to get rid of this guy, man. We need, you know what, I'd like to see Representative Ratcliffe go to the Senate and become the Senate Majority Leader. I mean, Mitch McConnell, he's done some good things, but, man, his time has come and gone. My winner.
Any guy that runs to the car and lets his wife,
right,
Chinese Department of Transportation Secretary,
Elaine
do the ninja
Chao.
thing.
Yeah. What a pussy.
Yeah.
What a pussy.
All right, carry on, Hutch.
So my winner for this week is television viewers. And I say that with a wink and a nod to my wife because she wants to get back to watching the regular stuff, man. She doesn't want to see this anymore. Nobody does. Nobody wants to see this anymore. Everybody hates it except you guys that are putting it on. My loser was 2 people, but I'm taking Chief Justice Roberts off after I read the responsibilities of a Chief Justice at an impeachment trial. And just all by herself, Nancy Pelosi is my loser of the week because Nancy Pelosi is the highest ranking Democrat in the United States government, and this is all of it is on her. And it's an embarrassment, and she should resign tonight. Can you imagine, Jack,
Number 3 in line
a serious
in the
person?
succession, right?
Can you imagine being a serious person in another country, especially one like Ukraine or like South Korea or like several other countries that depend on the stability and seriousness and sobriety of the United States government? Can you imagine watching this through their eyes?
Well, I think actually they're starting to see it through their eyes and realizing that President Trump has retaken the mantle of chief executive officer of this nation. Because you think about it. You think about Songbird, you think about Graham, you think about Pelosi, you think about all these swamp monsters in Congress, in the House and Senate with no term limits. And you think about the president and how little he has done for our country in your lifetime. But you now see President Trump and what he has done without Congress's help.
Look what he did. Look what this guy has done to the Bush legacy.
Yeah.
How horrible was that family to our country. They might as well be synonymous with the Clintons, in my opinion.
There is still offspring of the Bushes still trying to make hay in politics. We as Americans should recognize every single one of them and dismiss them.
Absolutely.
Forthwith.
100%. 100%. Jack, another great show. How can people get in touch with you? I know that's not really an issue, but
hey, you can listen to
your
me
final
right here.
comments.
My final comment. It's always great to be here with you, Hutch, and all the folks in the VFW and the Spreaker chat room. If you're tuning in as a podcast and you haven't listened to it live, you're missing out on a lot of it because the interaction, of the listeners here and their comments,
God
and their
bless
information.
the VFW. That's right.
And yes. So I look forward to next week.
All right, I do too. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/Cold War Radio 22. Ward does a hell of a job there. I mean, Jack, we're hitting 20,000 people a week up there. I mean, it's beautiful. You people that are checking out the Facebook page, come listen to the show. I mean, come on, we gotta put these two things together.
We know this is election year, and we know, especially with this farce of an impeachment that they're trying to blast down. People are like, wait a minute, what the hell is going on? I thought this was the United States of America.
That's right.
Well,
that's right.
You tune in to Cold War Radio, and you'll get comfortable and know you are not alone.
That's right. If you're a new listener, send us an email, scrtv@live.com. Let me know, or even call up the show. I mean, you can call it up live if you're just hearing it now. I recently had some new Facebook likes and follows and whatever that is, friends. 412-206-6208, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 p.m. till at least 10 p.m. But so make sure you do that. The podcast is available on Spreaker. You need to search. If you just go to Spreaker.com and you search for news/news commentary, we're in the top 20 there. Go to the 405media.com and they stream the show 8 a.m. Eastern time. iHeartRadio on demand, the Cold War Radio app. We just paid the bill for that for this year. It was $200, $100 for Android and $100 for iPhones. Go there, get that free Cold War Radio app available in your app store. And the show's also on YouTube, and it's fully transcribed. So there's captions there. If you know anybody with hearing problems, they can follow along with the captions. A little treat for you tonight, going out of this week, and we're going to Camp Vienna tomorrow. So hopefully we'll be able to put everything up for the Saturday show. I'm sure we will. Don't worry, patrons. You'll get Berg's Eye View will be on tomorrow, and hopefully we can do something with SCR TV. I think I already did convert some of those files from FLV to MP4. But let's listen to Joe Grishecki. Joe Grishecki and Iron City House Rockers. I don't think they're called that anymore, but they were at the time. And an historic folk song called Homestead, historically talking about back in the day and the Union Busters and steel at its peak in the 1970s. God bless everybody. I'm Hutch Bailey Jr. Thanks for letting us into your life for a couple hours, and we'll be back on Monday live. And if you're not a patron yet, become a patron, and then you can just turn around and listen tomorrow night. God bless everybody. Joe Grishecki.
I was born in the coal fields of Kentucky. I moved north in 73. The war was still going strong, so I found a job rolling steel in a foundry in Homestead. I worked beside a guy named Grizz Basket, who taught me how to keep safe. He said there's many a man who have lost their fingers from their hands. You can wind up people who are dead in the homestead. And it's still glowed in the white hot chambers. The furnace spit fire and smoke, and the sunlight came through the cracks in the roof, and the dust was so thick you could choke. I heard all your stories about the 12-hour shifts in the mill, and all the Union brothers, the Pinkertons, tried hard to kill. Learned about freaking Carnegie the day the river ran red. How the Union caved in Homestead. It was more than a job, it was my family. I got married, settled down by a home, and in the barns down the street in the late summer heat. I never had to feel alone. I got worked in those old mills down till there's nothing left but the sweat and blood in the ground. At night we tuck our little babies in bed. We still pray to the red, white, and blue in Homestead. Homestead.
Bye.